Following the death of Jesus, the disciples fled and hid in fear and in shame. They were in shame because they had denied the Lord. They were in fear because they were afraid that what happened to Jesus would happen to them, that they too also would be killed. So they hid. See, it is sin and death that separate us from God. It is sin that not only moves us away from God, but that causes us shame, that causes us to doubt, as the disciples were doubting today. And it is death that brings fear. But Jesus Christ forever conquered sin and death by dying and rising again. He shows us that we have victory over sin and death through the power of his resurrection that exists in each and every one of us who have been baptized, those who have been saved. And the disciples here in the first reading give evidence to this grace of the resurrection, because once here in the gospel they were afraid, they were doubtful, but now they cannot stop talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. See, this is the grace that lives within us, that gives us this fire, this fuel, this love to proclaim Jesus Christ everywhere we go, not just in our words, but in our actions, in our deeds. And this is what the apostles are experiencing right now in this reading from the book of Acts. And this is the proof. This is the proof that the resurrection does exist because of the grace we receive. You know, the grace we receive from the sacraments because of its regenerating powers. And we've seen this proof since Jesus, since the early church, and Jesus ascended into heaven and the Holy Spirit came down upon the apostles and the church. Ever since then, it's been strong. I mean, just think back in time. No one has ever been able to destroy the church. In the early years of the church, there was great persecution. There were many martyrs. Moving on, there came about heresies. The Reformation. That did not destroy the church either. And there was wars. There were threats. We know this throughout the past 2,000 years. But nothing could destroy the church because of the resurrection power, the power of God. You see, every time, every hardship within the church, every time of adversity, God raises people of great charity, people who are inflamed with his love, with the Holy Spirit. Where there is destruction, annihilation, here come disciples, here come new missionaries. Just look back in time. And we could see this even in our own time, in this modern era. Tomorrow we'll have the canonization of Blessed John the 23rd and Pope John Paul II, Blessed John Paul II. And these were two men who give evidence of the power and the grace of the resurrection. They were not afraid. In the 20th century, we saw a rise in the advancement of technology. Mankind could now annihilate himself, could destroy himself. We saw that these inventions were of mankind, of humanity, were being used for destruction. I mean, look at we see World War I, we see World War II, and all through this time, we also see that we see science on the rise. We see emerging a culture of death within the world of science. Because now, what are they communicating? They're communicating that you can be the author of life. You can stop life. Contraception and abortion. We see this early on in the 19th century. Oh, there's first eugenics, and then as we move on into the 40s and 50s, contraception, and then the legalization of abortion. I mean, there's just so much happening. It looks like death is going to reign. Evil will reign. But thanks be to God for raising up men and women of the power of the resurrection. Blessed John the 23rd. When the church could obviously see that, that these talents given to mankind, their gifts, that they could be used for destruction. So it was time to bring the church into the era of modern thinking. So to teach the faithful that they are to be out into the world, that they're to be out into the world bringing the good news, using their talents for the common good, using their talents in a way that was moral and ethical. These were the teachings of the Second Vatican Council. Now, nothing changed, but it's the teachings of the church over the past 2,000 years. They were just presented to us in a way that we can go out and teach in this modern world and preach. We saw documents on science, documents on the laity, all things that we could use to teach in this modern era. See, but John the 23rd, he wasn't afraid. He didn't give in to any fear because of the love that existed in him, his love for God. And the same with John Paul II. He was never afraid. In fact, that's all he preached all the time was, do not be afraid, have courage. And then we see throughout the life of John Paul II, what is he teaching? He's just reiterating the teachings of the Second Vatican Council. He wrote volumes of work, and they were just an interpretation, or not so much of interpretation, but how to implement these teachings of the Vatican Council in our lives. And they're amazing teachings. You see, so even though we can see in the past 100 years or so and throughout time that it seems like death is reigning, sin is reigning. But then we listen to St. Paul's words. He says, well, where sin abounds, where death abounds, grace abounds all the more. See, this is proof of the resurrection. And we even can see it in ourselves. What propels us to go on? What moves us to keep going through all this adversity in the world? It is the love of God within us. It is the power of the resurrection. Because sin and death cannot conquer us. That's why we have a reason to hope. So let us be encouraged by these words of St. Paul, who says, though our outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed daily. Every day, because of the grace that we received, the power of the resurrection, we are being renewed every single day. For this slight momentary affliction is only temporary, but nothing in comparison to the weight of glory we will receive. Now, this is our hope, and this is what God has given to each and every one of us, the grace of the resurrection, the grace we receive in all of the sacraments. We're renewed in this resurrection grace when we partake of each and every one of the sacraments. And today, right now, when we receive Jesus in the Holy Eucharist, we are strengthened in the grace of the resurrection, renewed in his charity, experience this grace of regeneration. See, this is our hope, especially in these dark times. And then with this we receive, this darkness within us has been overcome, and the light is shining even brighter. So we have great reason to hope, my brothers and sisters, that God is doing a great work within each and every one of us. So let's not let neither fear, shame, doubt, or death. God is greater than all of this. And with him we can do all things. God bless you all.